In the United States, immigration policies are crucial in determining how welcoming or restrictive a state is for immigrants. Immigration laws influence not only the lives of those seeking a better future but also the economic and social fabric of the states they attempt to call home. In some states, these laws have been crafted with a clear goal of discouraging or limiting immigrant settlement. These policies range from stringent anti-sanctuary laws to collaboration with federal immigration enforcement, making it challenging for immigrants to thrive. This article explores the top 10 states where immigrants face significant barriers, examining how political agendas, economic concerns, and social factors come together to create less welcoming environments. Number 10. Arizona. Arizona has long been a focal point in the national debate on immigration, primarily due to its geographical location as a border state and its controversial immigration laws. One of the most infamous laws is Arizona Senate Bill 1070, widely referred to as the Show Me Your Papers law. This law allows law enforcement to question the immigration status of anyone they stop or suspect to be in the country illegally. Critics argue that it leads to racial profiling, particularly of Latino communities, which constitute a large portion of Arizona's population. Alongside this, Proposition 314 makes it a criminal offense for individuals to enter Arizona illegally from Mexico outside official ports of entry, giving local authorities the power to arrest and deport individuals. Arizona also severely limits access to essential services for undocumented immigrants, including prohibiting them from obtaining professional licenses, driver's licenses, and state identification cards. While the state does offer some support to certain undocumented residents, such as providing in-state tuition for eligible DACA recipients, it remains an environment where the policies reflect a cautious approach to immigration. Arizona's immigration laws and policies illustrate the tension between concerns over border security and the economic roles that immigrants play in the state. Number 9. Iowa. Iowa, often recognized for its agricultural industry, has established policies that present significant barriers to immigrants, especially those without legal status. One of the main policies is the requirement for employers to use the E-Verify system to confirm the legal working status of employees. This measure, while designed to prevent the hiring of undocumented workers, acts as a significant barrier for immigrants seeking employment. Furthermore, Iowa's voter ID laws make it harder for immigrants to navigate civic participation, as many lack the necessary documentation to prove their identity. In terms of social services, Iowa offers limited access to public benefits for undocumented immigrants, permitting only emergency services like healthcare, leaving many struggling to access basic necessities. Immigrants contribute significantly to the state's agricultural labor force, especially in meatpacking and farming industries, yet the state's policies emphasize legal compliance over immigrant integration. This approach has created a climate where the economic contributions of immigrants are acknowledged but not fully embraced. Number 8. West Virginia. West Virginia's immigrant population is relatively small, making up just about 2% of the total population. Despite this, immigrants play an important role in sectors like farming, fishing, and forestry. The state's immigration policies, however, remain challenging for undocumented immigrants. They are unable to obtain driver's licenses or state identification cards, which severely impacts their ability to live and work in the state. DACA recipients are an exception, as they are allowed to obtain these documents. West Virginia also mandates local governments to enforce federal immigration laws, meaning that undocumented individuals are more vulnerable to being identified and deported. While West Virginia's immigrant community contributes significantly to the state's economy, particularly in industries that rely on foreign-born labor, the state's policies do little to support their integration. Immigrants from countries like Mexico and China, many of whom are highly educated, could play a key role in the state's development, but these policies restrict their potential. Number 7. Texas. Texas, home to one of the largest immigrant populations in the U.S., faces a complex relationship with immigration. With a large number of unauthorized immigrants, particularly due to its proximity to the Mexican border, Texas has implemented policies that both rely on and restrict immigrant labor. The state cooperates closely with federal immigration authorities and has passed laws such as Senate Bill 4, which allows local law enforcement officers to question the immigration status of anyone they detain. This law has been criticized for promoting racial profiling and creating fear among immigrant communities, discouraging cooperation with law enforcement. Despite the harsh enforcement measures, immigrants are essential to Texas' economy, particularly in agriculture, construction, and hospitality industries. The state's policies often reflect the balancing act between leveraging immigrant labor and enforcing strict immigration regulations, leading to an environment that can feel simultaneously welcoming and hostile. Number 6. Florida. Florida is home to a large and diverse immigrant population, including many unauthorized immigrants. However, recent laws like Senate Bill 1718 have introduced a more restrictive approach. The law imposes strict penalties on employers who hire undocumented workers and invalidates out-of-state driver's licenses for undocumented individuals. The law also mandates the use of E-Verify for hiring new employees, increasing scrutiny on businesses that employ immigrants. Immigrants, who contribute significantly to Florida's economy, particularly in agriculture, construction, and tourism, could face additional challenges under these laws, including labor shortages in key industries. Moreover, Florida's healthcare system is becoming less accessible to immigrants due to new requirements for hospitals to collect and report immigration status. This has created a climate of fear that may discourage immigrants from seeking necessary medical care. Despite these challenges, Florida remains a state where immigrants have a notable impact on the economy and culture, particularly in cities like Miami, where diverse immigrant communities thrive. Number 5. Alabama. Alabama made national headlines in 2011 when it passed HB 56, one of the harshest anti-immigrant laws in the country. While certain aspects of the law were later struck down by the courts, Alabama's approach to immigration has remained restrictive. One of the most contentious provisions required schools to check the immigration status of students, creating a climate of fear for immigrant families. Another provision made it illegal for landlords to rent property to undocumented immigrants, further complicating the lives of those without legal status. Despite the state's reliance on immigrant labor, particularly in agriculture and manufacturing, the harsh policies create an environment that discourages immigrants from settling in Alabama. These laws have led to labor shortages in industries that depend heavily on immigrant workers, and social programs aimed at assisting immigrants struggle to gain adequate funding and support. Number 4. Idaho. Idaho's immigrant population is relatively small, but it plays an essential role in the state's agricultural economy, particularly in the dairy industry, where a large proportion of workers are foreign-born. However, despite this economic dependence, the state has introduced restrictive immigration policies. Attempts to pass laws like House Bill 65, which aim to prevent unauthorized immigrants from accessing public assistance, reflect the state's tough stance on immigration. Similarly, House Bill 753 sought to criminalize illegal entry into the state, mirroring laws in Texas. Though these bills faced opposition, the reality is that Idaho's economy and workforce are deeply entwined with immigrant labor, particularly in rural areas. Despite the push for restrictive policies, immigrant communities in Idaho continue to contribute to the state's growth and success. Number 3. Tennessee. Tennessee, known for its music and hospitality, has also seen growing debates over immigration policies. While the state's immigrant population is not as large as in other states, the policies it has enacted continue to present challenges for undocumented individuals. Tennessee has considered laws that would increase local law enforcement's role in immigration enforcement, allowing police officers to check immigration status during routine stops. Critics argue that these laws would increase racial profiling and strain community trust in law enforcement. However, immigrants, particularly in agriculture and construction, continue to contribute to Tennessee's economy, despite the challenges they face in terms of legal status and access to services. Number 2. Arkansas. Arkansas has a relatively small immigrant population compared to other states, yet immigrants play a significant role in the state's manufacturing industry. While Arkansas does not require employers to use E-Verify, it still imposes restrictions on undocumented individuals, particularly in the areas of education and public benefits. For example, undocumented students are not eligible for in-state tuition, making higher education more difficult to access. However, DACA recipients can benefit from in-state tuition, offering some relief. Many immigrants in Arkansas also face challenges related to low wages and high living costs, especially in areas like Bentonville, where housing prices have risen sharply. Despite these difficulties, immigrant communities continue to contribute to Arkansas' economy, often working multiple jobs to make ends meet. Number 1. South Carolina. South Carolina's immigration policies are among the most restrictive in the country. The state's laws, such as the South Carolina Illegal Immigration Reform Act, prohibit undocumented individuals from attending public higher education institutions or receiving in-state tuition benefits. The state also participates in Section 287G, which allows local law enforcement to act as immigration officers, adding another layer of enforcement for undocumented individuals. South Carolina's predominantly Republican political climate has influenced these policies, with politicians emphasizing stricter immigration enforcement. Despite these challenges, immigrants in South Carolina contribute to the state's economy and cultural richness, with significant populations from Latin America, Asia, and Europe. These 10 states exemplify how immigration policies can create significant barriers for immigrants seeking to build new lives in the United States. While the policies vary from state to state, the common thread is a preference for strict enforcement over inclusivity, often resulting in challenges for immigrants in accessing services, employment, and opportunities. These policies highlight the delicate balance that states must strike between securing borders, protecting local economies, and fostering social cohesion. Immigrants remain integral to the U.S. economy, yet these states present environments that are less welcoming, reflecting the ongoing national debate on immigration reform.